Thank you for staying with us. According to Financial Geek, financial independence means having the ability to support oneself financially without assistance. Being financially independent is an important goal for people of all backgrounds, but it is particularly important for women who have historically been marginalized by the job market. Financial awareness and money management skills can lend women a deeper sense of security that makes it easier to save and invest for the future. An understanding of the challenges, advice, and resources available to help can facilitate the process. Women tend to know more about managing their finances than they think. While some financial moves make sense at certain stages of life, other strategies are applicable at any time. Often, the best way to develop a financial strategy comes down to becoming more financially literate. Another survey submits that only 20% of women said they felt sufficiently prepared by their parents to manage finances as an adult. Setting financial goals and understanding short, medium, and long-term money strategies can result in a lifelong safety net. Now, to build financial independence and wealth, it's important to start investing, budgeting, saving, and planning for retirement. So we are asking, how can more women attain financial freedom? Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation and send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663 or tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag #WithShow. I'll bring in a guest in a bit, but before I do that, I would love to know what you think when the word financial freedom or the phrase financial freedom comes to mind. What comes to your mind?
Okay, what comes to mind is the fact that we need to develop certain habits. And not just in Nigeria, basically. I've seen the situation where we have a lot of children or individuals who are not financially literate. And I think the earlier this is introduced to the curriculum, the school curriculum, and the education system, which has to do with not just the school, but also at home, like you stated earlier, I think it is crucial that every individual is aware of how you spend money and how you earn money, and
the value of money as well.
The value of money. So the more we get to learn about things like this, the better we get about spending our monies and how we developing good habits as well, to know what to do with our monies. So I think, yes, it's important. Financial freedom is essential, not just for individuals who are older, but also younger.
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with you. When I saw this topic, I was quite excited, and the reason is because you know, in secondary school you're being taught mathematics, right? Or you're being taught accounting and finance and all of that. Even in the university, I know a lot of people studied banking and finance and all, but they don't really teach you the most important, which is money spending habits. How to invest money, how to spend money, how to plan for rainy days. Nobody knows. What they will tell you is, by the time you're done with NYSC,
get a job.
No, now when you're done with NYSC, your first salary, you're supposed to tender it to your parents.
Really? Is that what they teach you guys?
You haven't heard?
Oh, yes.
Oh, really? No,
I did serve, but I did plan to.
Yeah, your first income is being, I mean, it's like, I don't even want to say it's an African thing or it's a Nigerian thing, but it's something that as I was getting my first pay, that's the first thing everybody was saying. Go and tender your salary to your parents. Nobody's telling you this is how you're supposed to split your money. This is how to invest. These are the type of things you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to leave, you know, I mean, you're being paid XYZ amount of salary, but the first thing you're thinking about is how will I spend it? Not how would I invest, or what am I going to do?
I thought you were going to talk about how your first salary for the year has to be given to the church, first fruit of the year.
That one too is there. That one too is there, but nobody really is explaining to you, or even trying to. I mean, it sounds like a dreamy type of thing when you think about, I want to be rich someday, or I want to be financially stable. It doesn't have to be dreamy. I mean, I started realizing all of these things, I mean, sometime last year, when when you get to a particular age, you just sit down and be looking like, oh,
what have I done with myself?
What have I done with myself? Because the truth is, people will say a fool at 40 is a fool forever, right? So, but the thing now is, people above 40 still do not know what to do with money.
Oh, yes.
They don't even know what money is. People say money is a spirit. Money is also your friend, because if you know what to do with it, it's actually going to treat you well.
I think you should have been our guest for this conversation.
Oh, no, I'm here.
Well, you know what? Let's bring in the guest, because I see you have a lot. I'm hoping you can just find a way to put those into questions.
Yes,
so that the conversation
No, I
can
have
be
a lot of questions for the guests,
great.
please.
Okay, so Moturayo Ade-Famoti is the CEO at Stewards, an investment firm with locations in Lagos, Atlanta, Houston, Kenya, and London. As CEO, she leads a team of wealth management executives with expertise in diverse foreign investment portfolios of several multi-million-dollar real estate projects in USA, UK, and Nigeria. She has vast financial services experience and trades on various exchanges with a particular preference for European and North American markets. She trades on paper assets such as equities, options, mutual funds, bonds, exchange-traded funds, commodities, and forex. Prior to Stewards, Moturayo headed the largest private trust business in Nigeria at a leading bank. She's passionate about business and the advancement of women in business and transformation. And of course, that's why she's very important and the best to have this conversation with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Moturayo.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hi. Okay.
Hi.
So, so based off of what Alera has said, I'll just ask a quick question just to get the conversation going. Where do you think the gap is in this part of the world now? Of course, not the part of the world where you're in this part of the world when it comes to teaching women about money and what we should know about money?
Oh, what a good question to start with. I wouldn't say it's just Africa or Nigeria. I think even the Western world, we're not insulated. I think the biggest dilemma is basically it's one, tradition, two, culture. Religion has a part to play. And but most importantly, the self-awareness. You see, everything starts with you. If you think money is important, and I think it's extremely important to have a good relationship with your money, then you have to be involved. You are a mother in this household. You are a wife. The idea that you should be relegated to a certain status and then have the husband take care of the entire finances. I mean, those are belligerent and long gone days, you know, that we found ourselves in that kind of situation. Now, if you as a family unit want to build wealth, and when I mean wealth, not just personal wealth, but generational wealth, you need to have the mother involved. You need to have the children involved, not just parents this time around. You have to have your mother, everybody involved, so the husband, the wife, everyone has to be involved. And you shouldn't allow these traditional norms or cultural biases or you know, get in the way of you actually learning. So you have to put your best foot forward. You have to say, you know what, I need to get myself financially educated. I need to understand the basics of personal finance and then understand investment and get on with it, because only you're your biggest hindrance.
Wow. So you stated something about personal finance. Can you give us a sneak peek into what are the key things to look out in your personal finances?
Okay, so when you talk about being financially free or talking about finance in general, I like to group it into two. So there's personal finance and there's investments. So personal finance is the bare minimum you ought to start with, which means that you understand what the income of the family is, you understand what expenses are, you understand what the difference between needs and wants, you understand budgeting, you understand the fact that you have to start putting aside your nest egg to put together a retirement plan. You understand all this that makes which I call the basics of personal finance. Yeah. If you're looking to buy something, do you have an emergency fund all saved up? Do you have savings in your account that can actually cushion you during emergencies and even after, beyond emergencies? You know, do you have all of these things in place? Do you have the necessary insurance if you have cars? Do you have a life insurance policy in place? If anything happened to maybe your husband or any of the spouses, anything happens to them, can the other spouse carry on this family legacy that you built together? Will the children become destitute? Will they have to be withdrawn from the schools, from whatever school they are attending? All of these things, understanding how to manage the entire process is personal finance, because it's personal to you in nature. And then once you understand the basics of that, then you can begin to understand investment, because investment is where the real multiplier is. So when you make this money, you are able to manage your expenses and then carve out a certain percentage of your family income and put that into investment. And in order to do that, you need to understand what investments are. There are two major investments. You have the paper assets, which is the stocks, your bonds, your equities, and so on. And then the real asset, which is real estate, land, buildings, and so on. So you need to be able to understand how to manage that process. Okay, so that is the second tier. But the foundation of financial understanding is personal finance.
Okay, so I mean, the question I was going to ask earlier while I started the introduction. So in Nigeria today that I know, I'm going to speak for myself. And I know that a lot of young people have this question or have this puzzle. Nobody teaches us really what to do. So we know that the education system in Nigeria, the way we end at university, then the next level is NYSC, right?
Absolutely.
So right after NYSC, when it's expected that you're supposed to get your first job, what would be the advice you give to young people? Because a lot of them are clueless. I mean, some people would have to probably experience work, like have their work experience for like 4 or 5 years, or even some people 10 years before they will even realize that I do not even know what I'm doing. So how many % of your salary are you supposed to save? What are the things that are the necessary things that you're supposed to do with your pay from starters? Because I mean, entry level, let's say 100,000 naira or 150,000 naira. How do we start?
Okay.
All right, okay, so I would even say that when you get to NYSC, you're almost where a lot of people are considering starting the financial freedom or financial journey. It's slightly even late. You need to backtrack a bit because you need to start your financial journey slightly earlier. And what you need to understand is the concept of savings and self-denial. What do you do when your parents give you pocket money? Do you, because you see, you don't just wake up and say, you know what, I want to amass wealth. Wealth is embedded in character and personality.
Yes.
If as a young child, when you were 8 years old, 9 years old, when your parents were giving you pocket money, were you a spender? Were you always looking to spend it on frivolous items, candy? Or did you actually have a piggy bank? You know, and that is, if you can grasp and understand this concept of savings, you already understand the concept of delayed gratification and self-denial. And that alone, I would say, is probably half of your financial education. Because if you understand self-denial, you know that this money that you have you have to understand, you have to put it together, and hopefully when it's enough, you can invest it. That is most of your financial education. The rest is just top up. So as a mother, I started my financial education with my kids when they were about 2-3 years old. The first thing I did was to get them in piggy bank. All right, so they started understanding the fact that if I give you $1 or 1 naira, I don't expect you to spend it all. I expect you to spend part of it and give account of what you've done with the rest of the money. I expect that by a year or 2 years, you should have a certain amount of money in piggy bank. Again, it doesn't have to be much, but it is the concept and the character you're developing that child. So when the child begins to maybe at 8, 9, 10 years old, you are introducing them to the concept of setting up their own business or work opportunities, so they can begin to do chores at home, giving them income, you know, to understand. Again, you're programming that child, okay? You're teaching them, you're molding them. And so by the time they go through the secondary education, because when I was in high school, I understood saving, so I saved a lot of my pocket money. By the time I was in university, I was saving, I was working, and I was saving a lot of the monies I was earning, okay? So by the time I got to NYC, I understood perfectly the concept of savings. Now, to your question about when you're in NYC, maybe you didn't grow up in an environment whereby you had the privilege of having parents to nurture you. Now you're listening to a show like this. You can teach yourself. You can teach yourself the concept of savings. Remember, all I said till NYSC level was savings, all right? Now you're NYSC level. I think that the minimum you need to do, when you get your salary, the first thing you need to do is to pay yourself first. Paying yourself is putting together a minimum of 10 to 20%, depending on your circumstances, into savings accounts. You pay, that is how you pay yourself first. You pay yourself first. Then you can begin to group all your other expenses. I always say you should not let your expenses should be between 50, a maximum of 70% of your earnings. If your expenses are more than that, you need to cut it drastically because you're doing something wrong. You cannot afford to start your life living above your means, because then you're going to get yourself into all kinds of situations. Again, you have missed the concept of savings and delayed gratification. If you cannot afford that phone, you can wait. If you cannot afford that outfit, you can wait. You can wait for and do whatever it is you can. I used to sometimes walk to school, because if I paid for that extra transport fare, again, it was walking distance, so I got up early and I put it down to, okay, exercise, I'm exercising. So I walked 30 minutes because I needed to save that transport fare, because I had disciplined myself to save that extra money. All right, so when you understand the concept of savings, it is what you have, then you begin to invest in your financial education. And with technology age, there's so many resources that are available to you that wasn't before.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I think we're also still going to dwell on that concept of saving. And I like that you're raising it, because I know I've been dragging you on what tool to use and you have refused to use. But let's go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll definitely carry on this conversation. If you're just tuned in, we're having an amazing chat with Moturayo Ade-Famoti on how more women can attain financial freedom. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663 or tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag WaveShow. So before we went to that break, she was saying something about the concept of saving. I think we need to still dwell on that, because just like she rightly said, there are lots of tools out there to even help people save better now, and offering even some form of interest on the kind of savings. But we still realize that it's still very difficult for people to begin to cultivate that culture of saving. We have excuses right at the palm of our hands, like, oh, the money I'm making is not enough for me, the food price of inflation and everything. I mean, when you look at it from that angle as well, you say, okay, yes, they have a point. But like she's saying, you have to be able to discipline yourself to know that I have said I'm going to save 10% or 20%, then I have to do it come rain, come sunshine. So I need Moturayo to sort of still dwell on that concept, and how people can still be imbibe that lifestyle into them, even when it seems like everything is really tough and working against the culture of saving in this part of the world.
If you made a valid point, why would you save when the money is not even enough? What if the money wasn't there? What if the money disappeared tomorrow? Then what? What are you gonna do? You're gonna be in a worse situation. So you have to look at savings, that every time you refuse to save, you are eroding the quality of your future life. That's exactly what you're doing. Because if you think that this money is so little, is so insignificant at the moment, I can't even meet my expenses, one day that money will disappear, and we've all gone through hard times. Okay, so you don't come across like, oh, I don't have enough money. You don't have a choice. This is the future we're talking about. You cannot have your dinner for breakfast. Okay, you have to force yourself to save, and you have to cut as many expenses off as you can, and delay yourself till you can get that money to save. Now, moving on from savings, which I said is the bedrock of financial freedom, because if you don't even have savings, what are we gonna? Where are you gonna get started from? So outside of that, once you have money saved, then you cannot just leave this money sitting in the bank account. You have to understand that there's something called inflation, which erodes the value of the currency, of the money that you have. And then you also have in Nigeria what we call currency depreciation, which erodes the value of the actual currency that you're having. And if you don't think currency is important, currencies are usually backed against the dollar. If you don't think it's important, then everything affects us. The oil price affects us. It's so many things affect us that you have to be aware of the economics outside of the country. So once you have this money saved, then the next thing is to begin to learn how to invest. Understand the concept of investing. You understand the safe instruments like the treasury bills and the money market products and so on. Understand that if you put in part of your money, so if you have like $100 or 100 naira to invest, maybe if you put 20 to 30% in safe instrument that the capital is guaranteed, it will pay you very little interest, but at least it's guaranteed. Then maybe another 10% in ones that you can take a little bit more risk. And you have to look at your age and so on and so. So there are many factors that you have to learn. So that once you get the concept of savings, the next you want to understand is the concept of investments. this is where you take your savings and you begin to grow it exponentially and possibly at some time even multiply it. It's all down to knowledge and access to information. So that way, that is now what we're talking about when we talk about financial freedom. And if you put all of this together, especially the family unit, that you're working together as a family, then you'll set the stage to grow your wealth exponentially. You don't want to, I know, in families, there's some families that the husband and wives, they just cannot come together financially. And in that case, if they do separate their finances, as long as each person understands what they're doing and they grow their wealth that way, that's also fine. I mean, the ideal would be for them to be together, but sometimes it's actually better for them to separate their finances if one personality doesn't suit the other when it comes to financial decisions. So
okay. So what about someone who is, if I may step in, I really need to ask you this question. If you have someone who is a lady who owns a business, for example, and it's not on a large scale, it's a small scale business, and she wants to scale up her business, and she wants to there are ways to go about this, but she doesn't know how to grow her business through savings or through investments. What will be the right way for you to throw light into how she can actually attain financial freedom? That's one. If you don't mind me asking you another question. The second one is the fact that if Mama Beji, Mama Yabo who has a shop, and she doesn't understand the dynamics of treasury bills and all that, what would be the right advice for you to give to this person to know how to scale up a business and attain financial freedom?
Okay, so I think we're talking about two things. Now, first of all, let me get the question right. You want me to give advice in terms of scaling up your business, all right? And you also want me to give
attain financial freedom
advice in terms of understanding financial instruments to invest in.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay.
Yes. Especially for individuals who are not financially literate. Mama Yabo, who owns a shop in one small market there, and she has a business, so she doesn't know how to invest in treasury bills and things like that. What would be the right thing to help her attain financial freedom?
Fantastic. The good thing about Mama Yabo is that there's always in Nigeria, there's always a bank close to you. Make an appointment with your bank, with your account manager. Tell them that you need to invest in treasury bills and you want to see what else you can put your money in apart from your money just sitting in the savings or current account. Just that's the quickest way for you to get started. Find out your local bank. Now, in your local bank, in most banks in Nigeria, for instance, they have so for instance, they have their capital markets, all right? So they have their asset management arm. Every bank in Nigeria does it.
One, yeah.
Whether it's the big ones, no need to mention them.
Absolutely.
So if you go to your local bank and tell them that you like to sit down with an asset manager, and you get an appointment with an asset manager and sit down with an account officer in there, and they'll tell you the products that they currently have. And then you listen very carefully and start with the ones that guarantees your capital. I would not say to you to go and start investing and then risk all your capital, because now you're back to zero and you have nothing. And you're going to get yourself in all kinds of emotional situations. Yes. So understand. So when you sit down, because it's not something I'll say, go ahead and read something about it. Go and sit down and sit down with different banks maybe 3, 4, 5 and see what products they have and what the rates they're giving to you. And that is the start. Okay, once you get that sorted out, then you can now request that you want to talk to their securities arm. The securities, they deal with stocks and so on. And then you can begin to say, okay, fine, I have this amount of money. This amount of money, I want it guaranteed. I'm willing to risk this percentage. So if you're off from your NYSC, maybe if you have 100 Naira saved, you can risk 20 to 30% on equities because you're young. And you still have many years ahead of you to work. And even if there were losses, you can still absorb those losses. So that's a very good way to start. This is in addition to all the tools you have online. I'm just saying, make an appointment, go and talk to people. Not one, not two, all right? And get them, sit down one-on-one and let them take you through this. And they will. You can't, if the first time ignores you, the second, the third, the fourth will answer you.
Yeah.
And then that way you are gathering knowledge at its basic stage. So you begin to buy treasury bills, you are into securities, and at the same time, you can begin to pay attention to land properties around you. Now, that one you have to be extremely careful because you have to understand title. So you have to, there's so many resources again. It's stage by stage. If you're there and you don't know what to do, I say, fine, I want to start investing. You're going to be lost, you're going to be overwhelmed, and you will give up. I can guarantee that. But if you take it babies one step at a time, start with the treasury bills, move on to bonds, understand stocks, then before you go ultimately to properties. That way it's more manageable. At the same time, you're meeting people, you're learning, you have what are you following on Instagram? That's important. If all you're doing is fashion and makeup, that's all you're going to be, that's all the information you're going to be getting. But if you're following people that are always giving nuggets, you can follow us, Money Stewards. We give you tips all the time on savings, on investments. It's free. I mean, it's nothing to do. Just watch the videos we put out, and so many other good resources out there. They do that. So that way, you're programming yourself. You're learning. Regarding the second question you asked, in terms of actually growing wealth and being able to scaling up your business, I would say proceed with caution. Most of the time, I see a lot of people complain that they want to scale their business, and therefore the reason that they can't scale their business is because they don't have access to funding. All right, funding is expensive. They don't have collateral. They cannot talk to the bank will give them money. You see, the truth of the matter is that sometimes it's best to go organically. I've seen several businesses that have taken up loans, and the loans, I've crushed them and they've completely wiped them off. Because when you start taking other people's money, that's a lot of responsibility. Do you have the governing body in place to oversee your activities? Do you have the expertise internally? Because there's a lot involved in taking people's money, because you have to be financially responsible and fiduciarily responsible and return people's money. So if you don't have the capacity, and trust me, we all do, we all feel we have the capacity to return this one, but in most cases we don't. So I always encourage businesses, grow organically. Take the little money the profit you made, and reinvest it. Keep on reinvesting it, and it does take time. Quit doing business plans that will make you cash flow positive in the third or fourth month. In reality, it doesn't work that way. It takes at least 3 years for your business to stabilize. It takes maybe another 4 or 5 years to break even. It takes another 7 years to be profitable. So give yourself time. If you're putting yourself under so much pressure, I'm not making, I'm losing, I need to make money, then you're getting yourself in all kinds of situations, and at some point you will either break down emotionally or you'll be
absolutely.
So
give yourself time.
I know you have questions. We even have comments to take, and I really want us to touch on something I like to call habits of financial freedom, which also speaks to how a lot of people don't even take insurance serious in this part of the world. We do a lot of out-of-pocket payments, which is one thing that I know that even especially for the health sector, people are trying to sensitize others to be able to know that they can have a plan that really covers them. Like, it covers you just as their adverse talks about. It really covers you. But very quickly, you have a message as well, Alero. This says, in Nigeria, people seem to have a very strong survival mindset. Because of this, we don't really acknowledge the value of what we do work-wise. Since that is necessary for wealth creation, how can we imbibe it into ourselves despite the predominant mindset? Okay, so that's the question. I think you should take that in a minute or two, Moturayo. Did you get that, or should I take it again?
Sorry, please, you have to repeat the question.
Okay, it says, in Nigeria, people seem to have a very strong survival mindset. Because of this, we don't really acknowledge the value of what we do, that's work-wise. Since that is necessary for wealth creation, how can we imbibe it in ourselves despite the predominant mindset?
Okay. I can't say that I really understand the question, but I'll try my best to respond. Okay. Well, it's talking about the value of the work that you do, right? I still don't. I'm not
Okay,
So it's talking about the value of the work we do. I mean, in Nigeria, if I get this person correctly, we are hard workers,
Okay.
right? But at
We are
some
hard
point, we
workers.
work so hard and we
get so
have
little.
almost nothing to show for it.
Get so
So how
little.
can we imbibe that hard work into financial literacy and freedom that we desire to attain?
See, I think that there's hard work and there's smart work.
Absolutely.
You have to quit mistaking the fact that you're hard working to be productive. Sometimes, if I was going to, okay, so right now I trade on all the markets, and say I wanted to raise, maybe just for the sake of it, maybe $100,000. I know exactly in the past what I'll do. I get some income. I know exactly what instruments to trade. I know the kind of risk to take, and I'll do it on in the comfort of my home. But you have to understand that for me to be able to get to that, it took me years of study, years of attaining all of these things. The mistake that a lot of we also make is that you feel that I'm in chapter 9 of my book. All right, I've written 8 chapters, so I'm obviously more experienced. But you're in chapter 1. You have not earned the right to compare yourself with me. That's what I'm saying. So, and if you do that, you're going to fall into that trap of, oh, my hard work is not being rewarded, or maybe I'm doing something wrong. You have to understand that there's some things that just take time. If you cannot remove the time factor from the result, all right, things take time. You will, and number 2, you will fail, you will make mistakes. You have to embrace those things.
Absolutely.
They're all learning curves.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand that things will take time, there's time that it will naturally will take. The fact that you water your yam twice as much doesn't mean it will grow twice as fast. Okay, it just takes time. Secondly, you have to understand that you will give yourself time to fail. And you will fail. I don't care who your mentor is, what your connections are, what your pedigree is. We are bound to make mistakes. It's just the way things are built. All right. And if you allow yourself in all of this, thirdly, have a mentor that can guide you through a lot of these things. There's nothing that you want to do that somebody else hasn't gone ahead before.
Yeah.
There are books about it, there are courses about it.
Yeah.
Leverage on that so that your time and your mistakes can be cut off significantly. And then there's always the environmental factors. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's always the environmental factors. So all of those things, you have to put it together. Otherwise, I'm very careful when I'm advising young professionals, especially, that what they're trying to do, you want to encourage them, but you also want them to proceed with caution, because there's so many other factors. So hard work, wills, is extremely important. It's not the only ingredient for success. In fact, I dare say that a lot of people that work hard, they're on the farm, they're in the fields, they're working twice as hard as those of us that are working on the laptop. But they earn probably less than 10% of what people traditionally earn.
Thank you so much. Alero, your
Okay, so I
message
have a
and
comment.
question quickly.
Yeah, I
Our
have a
time is
comment
gone.
quickly. Okay, so there's a comment. Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying Ways. Concerning a woman attaining financial freedom, it has to start somewhere, because it is very important. When a girl is growing and maturing, their savings have to be monitored. Why I'm saying so is that if they are not monitored, distraction comes in. We know that the price of foodstuffs are high. They will tell you that they want to do this and do that, and then get distracted. What they need is their main priority is to do more. They should have made saved. Well, this person is basically advising us, advising women on investment and business. I have a question, or I want to talk about debt quickly. I want you to just touch on debt. A lot of people are in debt, and it's messing with their psyche, or it's messing with their mind, and they feel like, I don't know how to come out of it. So I want you to please just advise quickly, how can women or individuals actually come out of debt and actually attain that financial, even if you're starting afresh, even if you're starting again. But I mean, I just need you to just give us some tips on how best to come out of debt and stand your feet.
Okay, that's a very important question, because debt can be acquired through maybe schooling. You took some school student loans, or you borrowed money for investment and it went down. Debt can be acquired. It doesn't matter how it's acquired. The first thing you have to realize that you have not done anything massively wrong. Even if you did anything wrong to get to this level, anything can be corrected. So you've got to have that faith that, you know what, this is where you're at. Acknowledge what you've done and begin and move on from what, because what I feel affects a lot of people, because it's a very, very important area, and it's one area I'm looking to go into as well, debt counseling, because people have committed suicide just because of debt. And the reason they do that is because they don't see any way out.
True.
So the first thing, acknowledge what you have done. If it's a mistake, move on from the mistake. Do not tie yourself through that in that passing, I wish. You cannot move on looking at the rearview mirror. So that's the first thing you need to understand. Number two, so many people are in your position. Debt does not kill you if you don't let it. It doesn't have to kill you, all right? You will get out of that position. Have faith. Number three, you have to know that your earning power will increase eventually. Some people have committed suicide on a couple of millions of naira because they really could not see how they could ever come out of it.
Yes.
But if only they had persisted, they would realize that maybe 2-3 years down the line, their earning power has significantly changed. You are never going to be in the same position. No problem is permanent. No situation is permanent, as people will say. All right, so you will come out of it. Your earning potential will increase. And number four, one day you're going to be debt free. You make a plan with your debtors. Tell them this is the minimum payment you can afford. Some of them would threaten and scream and shout. Legally, you can't go to jail simply because you owe somebody money. It's a civil matter. It's not a criminal case. Even if you're in the Western world, it's not a criminal case. Make a debt aid plan and try and stick to the plan as well as possible. All right. Still go ahead and live your life. Still go ahead and save money. Still go ahead and invest, because sometimes it's the investment that you make, the return will eventually pay off the debt.
Thank you so much for putting that together in 2 minutes, less than 2. Before we go, thank you so much, ladies. Do ensure you follow us on Instagram at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our social media engagements. And remember to like, share, comment, and invite your friends and family to watch us and follow us. If you missed today's quote, here it is again. To get rich, you have to be making money while you're sleeping. I thought we would get the guests to speak on this, but time, Anyway, see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Bye.